Hello friends, I'm Christopher. In this video I'm going to talk about disassembling a fence with the intent of using or upcycling or repurposing as much of the material as possible.
Oh, it's a sustainability project. Wow.
Here I have one of my old pickets. This is a 16-year-old cedar picket. It was at one time a 1x6x6 board. You can see it has naturally grayed. If you don't treat your cedar, this is just what will naturally happen. Most of your wood will gray like this too. And many fences are like this. This is a great starting material. This is part 1 of 7 of a big build series where I'm discussing my massive fence project that I undertook. I have about 400 feet of fence, and 95% of it is upcycled cedar. What I did is I took apart all of the panels and I reused them. How did I do that, you ask? Well, I went around and I took a reciprocating saw at the posts and I cut through all the nails. Mine were just toenailed in there on an angle with nails, so they were pretty easy to get out. I suppose I could have whacked them out with a sledgehammer, but that would have caused more damage to the boards themselves. So cutting them with a reciprocating saw was fine. It had a nice, fresh, sharp blade. Once I got the individual panels down, which in my case ranged anywhere from 5 feet to 9.5, 10 feet, it was time to take off the individual pickets. In my case, it was pretty easy. They were nails. When the people installed this fence, they cut a lot of corners in my case, and they used nails that were not galvanized, so there was a fair amount of rust, and of course that takes off material from the nail, making them skinnier in time, thus easier to pull out. And they weren't rim shanked either, so there was really no grip that those nails had in the board, especially after a decade and a half. So they pried out pretty easily with the end of a hammer and a pry bar. This whole process, just took a couple of days, but I spread it out over more time. The nature of projects, I guess. My fence had a little bit of a curve to it between each post. I assume they were all at one time just dog-eared posts that the contractor put up and then took a chainsaw to, or a reciprocating saw, and just went. So I used the height of the bottommost picket as the full length of all of these boards once they were done. Does that make sense? So at any given time, I would say the height, the most maximum height in my fence was about 6 feet, right? But the lowest part was about 5.5 feet. So I cut all of my boards to that 5.5 feet mark. It was actually 64.5 inches. So they got a fresh cut on the top and a fresh cut on the bottom after they were all removed, and that was because, well, they looked like this, right? The fence was too low when it was installed originally. It was touching the ground, and so there was a fair amount of rot on the bottom for where leaves had just come up to it over the years, or soil contact itself. And then on the other end, the top was a highway for squirrels, and it was also apparently what they liked to sharpen their teeth on. So I cut off all of those squirrel marks and the rot marks to give it a nice fresh top and bottom. In my case, I had a whole bunch of cedar posts. They weren't pressure treated, they weren't rated for ground contact, and they certainly weren't sealed. Unfortunately, it was a crapshoot whether mine were in concrete or just in the ground, so I was dealing with rot. I was not going to put cedar posts back in. I specifically wanted things that were meant to be in the ground and that were sealed, so it was new lumber for me. But that wood that wasn't rotted on the bottom was certainly good for something else. And you can see I've got it right here next to me on my lumber rack. I've got the old cedar posts here. I cut them all to 18 inches or so. And this is fine lumber for outdoor bonfires. The same went for all of the rails. Once I was done using those to set the new posts, they all got chopped up to 18 inches as well. So that's what I think also plays into the sustainability of this project. Not only are the pickets being reused, but the rails and the posts are being repurposed for firewood instead of just being thrown out. Nothing went to waste in this project. Let me show you what a board looks like when it was all finished, comparatively. I had a few leftovers in the end, This one's kind of a sorry Charlie. It doesn't have a fresh cut on the top and the bottom. In time, when one of these panels fails, I'll be able to take it off and cut it to the appropriate height. That's why I didn't have it cut. But you can see the difference in color and in texture as well. I pried out all the nails. You see my nail holes here. I left them. Doesn't pay to fill it. The filler will, come out in time eventually. And it looks pretty cool, right? All these pickets along my fence have character. But in subsequent videos, you'll see me talking about power washing and then staining to give this old look a new look, which will then maintain for many, hopefully, decades in the future. So, have you ever disassembled a fence? What did you do with it? Did you have to get rid of it? Did you burn it? Did you upcycle it into a different project? What do you think I did right or wrong? Leave a respectful comment down below. And of course, stay tuned for the next video in the series, which is power washing. Hey, no, it's handy dandy. Got a whole long form video on this whole project and a very brief one too if you want to catch the whole multi-month thing in just a couple minutes. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.